I will never forget the first time I felt life stir within me for the very first time. It was as though the breath of God had settled upon my womb, igniting a fire both glorious and terrifying. The first labor pain struck me like lightning, each contraction a hammer upon my body, each breath a battle between the body's instinct to scream and the spirit's demand for silence. Adam knelt beside me on the cool grass of our garden, his hands trembling as he brushed the sweat from my brow. "You are stronger than you know," he whispered, though I could see the fear in his eyes, and I knew he wondered if I would survive this new ordeal. Night fell around us, the sky a tapestry of white and yellow blinking stars, as a million silent witnesses to this new birth. The air grew heavy, almost suffocating, as though the very world held its breath, awaiting this new life's arrival. I clutched Adam's hand, nails digging into his flesh, as pain ripped through me in waves that threatened to break my spirit. Each contraction felt like the earth itself was tearing apart. I prayed to God who formed me from Adam's rib, begging for mercy, for strength, and for the gift of new life. In those moments, time stretched and fractured. I recalled the first dawn I shared with Adam, the feel of his hand in mine as we named every creature, the wonder in his eyes when we discovered the first flowers blooming. Yet now, amidst this primal agony, those memories seemed distant and fragile, like lotus petals floating on a stormy sea. Then, suddenly, the world stilled. A piercing cry, fierce and unyielding, shattered the silence, echoing against the ancient trees of Eden. Then, they laid him on my chest, Cain, firstborn of humankind. His dark hair lay plastered to his tiny wet skull, his eyes already fierce with purpose, as though he understood the weight of the destiny laid before him. His cry was triumphant, as though he heralded his own victory over death. I wept, not from pain, but from the overwhelming surge of love that coursed through me, burning brighter than any agony. In that moment, I believed I could face anything for the sake of this child. I traced his tiny fingers with trembling awe, marveling at the miracle of his existence. But life's paradox is cruel. Joy and sorrow born together. Before Adam had cleared the birthing cloth from my thighs, I felt the stirrings of another life. A second labor began, gentler yet no less merciless. Adam's face was ashen. He supported me as I convulsed through the final throes of another birth, whispering prayers between clenched teeth. When my second son emerged, with lighter blonde hair and a softer cry, it was as though the dawn itself had taken form. His wail was quieter, a melody of vulnerability that tugged at my heart. I pressed him to my breast, tears of relief and fear mingling on my cheeks. I named him Abel, a word that felt like a breath of hope in the night. Holding them both, the small bodies nestled side by side against my heart. I felt a joyous rupture inside me. How could I love two children with such equal ferocity and unconditional love? I stayed awake that night, rocking them in my arms, my thoughts a storm of devotion and dread. I imagined their futures, Cain with his dark eyes gleaming with ambition, Abel with his gentle hands and tender voice. I prayed that God would guide them, that he would shield them from envy's shadow. But in the depths of my soul, I sensed a darkness stirring, a whisper of conflict that no prayer could silence. The first light of morning seeped into our home, illuminating the garden in a soft, golden glow. The dew on each petal sparkled like tears, and the air carried the scent of jasmine and new beginnings. Abel greeted the dawn with a song so sweet, it seemed to coax blossoms open. His laughter drifted through the air like a hymn, pure and unburdened. He moved among the lambs, his gentle hands caressing their fleece, his voice a lullaby that spoke of peace. Adam watched him with pride, eyes shining. "My son," he whispered, "you bring harmony to creation." I smiled, but the smile faltered when I saw Cain's silhouette at the edge of the orchard. He stood alone, shoulders hunched, eyes dark pools of resentment. Cain followed me instead of joining his father and brother. His footsteps were silent on the mossy ground, but I heard the thunder in his heartbeat. He did not speak. I did not ask. We moved among the fruit trees in oppressive silence, the branches heavy with the promise of ripened fruit. I tried to draw Cain close, to remind him of his place in our hearts. "My son," I whispered, "you are the first of our children, you carry my blood, my breath." His eyes flicked toward Abel, and in that moment I saw the spark of envy ignite. "But I'm not enough," he said, voice low and trembling. The words cut through me like a knife. The day stretched on, each hour a weight pressing down on my chest. Abel's gentle triumphs, each lamb born under his care, each sprig of mint he harvested, were torches in Cain's growing darkness. I watched them, my sons, each a reflection of love and envy intertwined in motherhood. At midday, I found Abel by the stream, his fingers trailing through the cool water, his face alight with wonder. He spoke to the fish, calling them by name, and I felt a swell of pride so fierce it warmed me. But when I turned to share his joy with Cain, I saw him vanish into the trees, as though swallowed by the shadows of his jealousy. Fear coiled in my stomach. I called his name, but the garden answered only with rustling leaves. I hurried to the grove, heart pounding. There, beneath the ancient oak, I found him, shoulders shaking with silent rage. His fists were clenched, nails biting into his palms. "Why does God favor him?" he spat, voice echoing in the hollow. "Why am I left wanting for God's grace?" I placed a trembling hand on his arm. "My son, your gifts are worthy and your heart is good." He wrenched away, eyes blazing. "Do not lie to me, mother. I see the favor he has shown. I feel it in my bones." He fled, and I sank to the earth, tears blurring my vision. I prayed for him, for Abel, and for our entire family. Yet in the pit of my soul, I knew that the seed of envy, once sown, could not be uprooted easily. As the sun dipped low, shadows lengthened like hungry beasts. The air grew heavy, and a storm of dread rolled into my heart. I returned home alone, the garden's beauty a cruel mockery of my fear and looming apprehension. Dawn broke with a sky bruised purple and red, as though the heavens themselves foretold of the battle to come. Adam declared a day of offering, an ancient rite to honor our Creator and the abundance of the land God provided. He summoned Cain and Abel to the altar of stone, carved with runes older than memory. My heart thundered as I watched them prepare their gifts side by side. Abel approached first, leading a lamb whose fleece shone like freshly fallen snow. He knelt on the dew-chilled stone, hands trembling with reverence, and spoke in a voice so pure it stilled the wind. "Father of all, accept this lamb, a token of our gratitude." I felt the air shimmer, a warmth settling over us like a sacred benediction. Cain stepped forward, arms laden with the fruits of his labor. Bundles of grain, clusters of figs, apples still slick with morning dew. He placed them before Adam, posture rigid with expectation. "Father," he said, voice rough, "accept these fruits of my toil." The wind held its breath. Adam's gaze, so tender toward Abel, flickered with a hint of sorrow and brotherly love. I saw the moment envy ignited within Cain, a spark that flared into a bonfire. His jaw clenched, veins standing out on his neck. He turned his back on the altar and strode into the grove. I rushed after him, fear coiling up in my stomach. Beneath the ancient oak, Cain's shoulders shook with silent rage. He clenched his fists until his nails bit into his palms, drawing blood that trickled down his wrists. "Why does God favor him?" he hissed into the hollow. "Why am I left still wanting?" I placed my hand on his shoulder, voice trembling. "My son, your offering is just as worthy. You have poured your heart into these gifts." He whipped around, eyes wild. "My heart is a bottomless void," he snarled. "I give everything and receive nothing in return." He ran from me, disappearing into the forest of trees. I stumbled back to the altar, breathless, only to find Abel kneeling alone, tears glistening on his cheeks. He rose at my approach, confusion and fear in his gaze. "Mother, where is Cain?" he whispered. I could only shake my head, dread settling like lead in my chest. The hours that followed were a blur of anxiety and prayer. I searched the grove, calling Cain's name until my voice cracked. Each rustle of leaves sent my heart racing. Each shadow seemed to hold a nightmare. I returned to the altar at midday, hoping to find him there, but instead found only Abel, his sacrifice untouched. He sat beside the stone, his face pale, eyes rimmed with tears. "Mother," he said, voice trembling, "he has not come. I fear something terrible has happened to him. I will go look for him." Later that day, a rustle from the trees froze me in place. My heart leapt as Cain emerged, clothes torn, face smeared with earth and blood. He moved with a slow, unnatural gait, eyes vacant as though he carried a demon within him. "Mother," he whispered, voice distant. I did it." I followed his gaze to the clearing just a few hundred yards from our dwelling. There lay Abel, his body broken, eyes fixed on the sky. His blood soaked the grass, a dark testament to my failure as a mother. I fell to my knees, hands trembling as I reached for Abel's lifeless hand. His skin was cold, the warmth drained away. Cain knelt beside his brother, tears carving tracks through the dirt on his cheeks. "Forgive me," he sobbed, voice cracking. I couldn't stop the rage inside me." His hands trembled, stained red, as he brushed a single strand of hair from Abel's face. I screamed, a sound that tore through the air and shattered my sanity. Adam came running, grief contorting his face into a mask of despair. He dropped to his knees beside me, arms shaking. No! No! He choked. Then he saw Cain. "My son," he said, voice hollow. "What have you done?" Cain looked up, eyes vacant. "I am not your son," he whispered. "I am the sin you carried and put into mother to birth into this world." The world collapsed around me in that moment. I felt the ground tilt, the sky spin, and my mind fracture under the weight of this unspeakable horror. I clutched Abel's body to my chest, his warmth gone, his breath still. Adam cradled my shoulders, his tears soaking my hair, his grief merging with mine in a symphony of agony and unbearable loss. For hours we remained there, locked in our nightmare, the garden silent except for the whisper of leaves and the distant call of a lone bird. Night descended, and with it came a cold so deep it felt like the breath of death itself. We wrapped Abel in a simple linen cloth, the first shroud ever fashioned, and laid him upon the altar stone. The lamb's fleece had been replaced by human blood, our innocence lost and stained forever by this insane act. I wandered the garden's paths in a delirium, haunted by visions of my sons. I saw Abel's gentle smile in every glimmer of moonlight, heard his soft voice in the rustle of the breeze, and I saw Cain's twisted form in every shadow, felt his accusing gaze upon me. I questioned every moment, every choice. Why had I loved Cain so fiercely? Why had I failed to see the darkness growing within him? Could I have prevented this? Each question was a dagger to my soul. In my fevered dreams, Abel's ghost reached for me, voice trembling. "Mother, save him." And Cain's specter stood behind me, voice a rasping whisper. It was not my fault. I awoke with a scream, heart pounding, drenched in sweat. At dawn, God's presence descended upon us like a storm, shaking the earth beneath our feet. I felt his sorrow as a physical weight, crushing my ribs, pressing me into the ground. Adam rose, turning to Cain with eyes blazing with wrath and grief. "You have shed the first blood," he declared. "You are cursed above all men." A black mark appeared upon Cain's brow, a symbol of his crime and his protection. It glowed faintly, an eternal reminder of his sin. "Let no one kill you," God's voice rumbled, "yet let no place be your home. You shall wander the earth alone for your entire life, a fugitive." Cain stood, shoulders stooped, the mark pulsing with a sorrowful light. He looked at Abel's body, then at me. "Mother, I will love you, always," he said. Voice hollow, "I will go now. Goodbye." Each word was a blade twisting in my heart and ripping my spirit into pieces. He stepped forward, crossing the threshold of Eden. The gates closed behind him, a barrier of flame and stone. He paused, looking back once, his face an empty shell of the boy I had birthed, raised and loved. Then he turned and vanished into the unknown wilderness. I sank to the ground beside Abel's body, clutching the linen-wrapped form of my only remaining child. Adam knelt behind me, hands covering his face, his grief mirroring mine. The garden around us wept, rose petals falling like tears, the air thick with the scent of death and loss. Days passed in a blur. I moved through the garden like a ghost, unable to eat or sleep. Every path led to memories of that fateful day. Every flower bud reminded me of Abel's gentle touch. Every shadow spoke of Cain's out-of-control rage. In my madness, I carved Abel's name into the stone of the altar, each letter a wound upon my soul. I whispered prayers for Cain, for Abel, for myself, begging for mercy I feared would never come. And I understood in the marrow of my bones that this horror was only the beginning. Mankind's story would be written in blood and envy, in love and betrayal, in brother fighting brother until the end of our days. May God have mercy on our wretched souls and see fit to remake us into his original creation. Before my first immoral sin of the taking of the apple from the tree of life, I pray Cain and Abel can, one day, forgive me. I know I will never forgive myself.